The anime begins by showing a middle school girl named Aya Asagiri who had intended to end her life. However, she immediately gave up because she did not dare to do so and chose to continue living her life of misery. At school, Aya is always bullied by her classmates, both physically and mentally. In fact, the bullying experienced by her has already reached the stage of severe persecution because her classmates did not hesitate to beat her up and threaten her with sharp objects. At home, Aya lives with her parents and her older brother, Aya Asagiri, a smart and popular student at his school. Therefore, her parents seem to be more considerate and loving to Kaname, especially Mr. Asagiri, who has high hopes for his eldest son to maintain the honor and good name of the family and become a successful person in the future so that he can make his family proud. However, behind his charismatic nature, Kaname turns out to have a terrible nature. Every night, he visits his younger sister's room and bullies Aya, usually by tying her up and punching her until she vomits. He abuses her as a stress reliever to deal with his father's high expectations of his academic performance and hits him when he doesn't get perfect marks on tests and other assignments. Aya always spends her days at school and home, experiencing torture by her schoolmates and her older brother, until one day, a suspicious website named Magical Girl Site pops up on her computer screen, showing a creepy-looking person. This person appears to pity Aya and announces that she will grant her magical powers. She thought the site was just making it up and immediately turned off her computer. The next day at school, Aya looks surprised when she finds a toy gun with a heart barrel in her shoe locker. She also found a piece of paper that said how to use the gun and included a picture of a creepy-looking person who appeared last night on the Magical Girl website. According to the information on the paper, the gun is a kind of wand with magical powers. Even though she didn't know the use of the gun, Aya kept it in her bag just in case. As usual, Aya is always the target of bullying by three girls, Sarina Shizukume, Erika Kaijima, and Ai Kawano. But then, Sarina felt bored from continuing to do the same thing when bullying Aya, and she wanted to do something more frontal to torture her. Seeing that Sarina was bored, Erika had the idea of asking her acquaintance's senior for help, Shota Arai. When they came home from school, Sarina and Ai took Aya to the school warehouse, keeping her there. Not long after, Erika arrives there with Shota, who plans to do bad things to Aya at the instigation of Erika. Aya did not necessarily stay silent and tried to run away, but they managed to catch up and cornered her in a deserted place. She pleaded with them to let her go, but Shota instead pinned her down and prepared to do bad things. Aya, who refuses to give up her body to a lecherous man like Shota, remembers the toy gun she got from the Magical Girl site. Without thinking, she grabbed the gun from her bag, immediately aimed it at Shota and Erika in front of her, and shot them. Surprisingly, they suddenly disappeared as if they had magically moved places. After that, Aya rushed back to her house. But on the way, she saw people gathered at the edge of the railroad track and was very surprised to find that Shota and Erika lay lifeless after being hit by a train. Knowing that Erika and Shota died shortly after she used the Magical Girl site's toy gun, Aya was shocked. She blamed herself for the tragic incident that happened to her schoolmates. Arriving home, Aya hurriedly turned on her computer and tried to access the Magical Girl site, but she found nothing, as if the site had never existed before. The next day, Aya and her schoolmates are seen mourning the deaths of Erika and Shota. However, Sarina seems to be holding a grudge against Aya and accuses her of being the one who caused Erika to die from being hit by a train. Filled with anger and revenge, Sarina takes out a cutter from her pocket and plans to kill Aya in a very painful way. Fortunately, when Sarina holds and is about to cut Aya's tongue with the cutter, suddenly, time stops, and everyone else stops moving except Aya. Not long after, a girl named Tsuyuno Yatsumura appeared in front of her, admitted that she was also a magical girl, just like Aya, and asked Aya to come with her. But before leaving, Yatsumura slashed Sarina's neck with her cutter. Yatsumura then explained about her wand he got from the Magical Girl site, which is in the form of a smartphone stick that has the power to stop time at her own will and can add one or several people to move so that they are not affected by her ability by writing their name on the cell phone. Besides that, she explained that she had learned about Aya, who is a magical girl, and also Aya's magical wand in the form of a toy gun with the ability to teleport people instantly to places that have a strong impact on her or where she is thinking of by shooting them. When time rewinds back to normal, Sarina and Aya are surprised to find that her neck has been slashed, and Aya is no longer there. Meanwhile, Yatsumura, who decided to take Aya home, then told Aya all the information she knew about the Magical Girl site, one of which was the side effects they would experience every time they used their magical wand, such as blood flowing from the corners of their eyes and mouths, and also their lifespans, which will get shorter the more they use these powers. Furthermore, Yatsumura also said that there are many magical girls like them, one of which is her friend, Rina Shioi, who helps her uncover the secret behind the Magical Girl site. Rina managed to get a lot of information about the identity and whereabouts of the magical girls. But then, one by one, the magical girls started to be killed, and their magical wands were stolen. Yatsumura concludes that the killer is someone who has a magical wand and calls her the magical hunter. When she and Rina investigated the magical hunter, Rina suddenly disappeared right after she sent a photo that was supposed to be the face of the magical hunter. Knowing that she and Aya might be the next target, Yatsumura asked Aya to cooperate with her, where they would protect each other if the magical hunter suddenly attacked them. She tells Aya that she will stay all night in Aya's bedroom, protecting her from her brother's abuse. Meanwhile, the magical hunter is seen in another place, who has made Aya the next target and devises a plan to kill her. The next day at school, the students are still talking about the fateful incident that happened to Sarina and accuse Aya of being the one who slashed her neck because Aya was the only person on the scene. Aya became very depressed because everyone talked bad about her, though she had no idea what was happening. When she was about to go home, Aya met a pink-haired girl who turned out to be the magical hunter. Knowing that Aya was in danger, Yatsumura rushed to use her magical wand to stop time. Unfortunately, the pink-haired girl had already activated the magical barrier, so she wasn't affected by her magical power. Yatsumura then asked about the identity of the pink-haired girl because her face didn't match the face of the magical hunter that Rina had sent to her some time ago. She then reveals that she used the magical camera she stole from a magical girl, which allows her to transform into the person she photographs. Because Aya had been trapped in the magical barrier she created, the pink-haired girl then took out her magic wand in the form of a hammer to launch an attack at Aya. Yatsumura, who was outside the magical barrier, couldn't do anything to help Aya, so she convinced Aya to use her toy gun to defeat the magical hunter. At first, Aya was reluctant to use her toy gun because she was still traumatized by the tragic incident that happened to Erika and Shota. However, she had no choice but to use her magical wand and destroy the magical barrier created by the girl. After that, Yatsumura used her magic wand to stop time, so they could easily catch the magical hunter. But then, how surprised she is when she finds out that the magical hunter is actually her friend, Rina Shioi, who tells them that she's been killing other magical girls because she wants to survive the end. Furthermore, Rina says that she met the website's manager, who told her about a secret page with a countdown to an event called The Tempest, to happen on August 11th, that will destroy this world and open the door to a new one. However, before Rina explained in more detail, she suddenly vomited blood and fell unconscious, so Yatsumura and Aya rushed to take her to the hospital. After confirming that she had received medical treatment, they went to see the doctor who treated Rina, who told them that she had fallen into a coma and was in critical condition due to her damaged organs. Yatsumura didn't seem surprised to hear the doctor's explanation because Rina had used so many magical wands, which had a bad effect on her bodies and shortened her lifespan. Aya wondered about the Tempest incident that Rina was referring to. Since Yatsumura didn't know that either, Aya suggested that they look for the other magical girls out there who have the power to heal Rina so that she can reveal all the information she knows about the Tempest and also the secret behind the magical girl site. While searching Rina's bag, Yatsumura finds her slaughter notebook, which has photos of other magical girls. They realize one of them is Nijimi Anazawa, an idol from the Anuasobi group. A few days later, Yatsumura and Aya went to a fan meeting held by Nijimi and her girl group, where they then used their magic wands to take her somewhere and told about Rina, who was lying in a coma, and their plans to gather the magical girls so they can work together to uncover the secrets behind the magical girl site. However, before Nijimi had time to explain her magical wand, her fans suddenly appeared, so their conversation had to be stopped. Long story short, Aya and Yatsumura meet again with Nijimi at her house, who then reveals that her magic wand is the magic panties that can control people's minds by giving them direct orders and commands, thus controlling a person's actions and words. Nijimi is a cheerful and naive girl who is also fearless. Still, she changed from being a sweet girl to an obsessed girl with a strong desire for revenge in seconds when she talked about her best friend, Mikado Ikemata, who was killed by the magical hunter, who was none other than Rina Shioi. Knowing that Nijimi has such a big grudge against Rina, Yatsumura abandons her intention to ask Nijimi for help and plans to find the other magical girls. However, unbeknownst to Yatsumura and Aya, Sarina, who was also in the hospital, overheard their conversation about the magical girls. After they left the hospital, Sarina sneaked into Rina's treatment room and saw her lying in a coma. At the same time, Kaname, who's getting angsty by not using his sister as a punching bag lately, discovers the magical girl site on her browser's history. However, Kaname could not access the site, so he became irritated. Meanwhile, Sarina, who sneaked into Rina's treatment room, was surprised by the appearance of one of the admins of the magical girl site, a girl named Nana, who then told Sarina about the magical girl site. In addition, Nana also revealed the truth behind Erika's death and the cause of the appearance of a cut on her neck, which was none other than the power of the magic wands possessed by Aya and Yatsumura. Knowing this, Sarina became very angry and determined to take revenge on them. Surprisingly, Nana gives Sarina a magical artifact so she can become the next magical hunter, following in Rina's footsteps. A few days later, Sarina tries to access the Magical Girl website as directed by Nana. As the magical hunter, she finds information about when the Tempest event occurred, which is mentioned in detail on the Magical Girl website. Sarina was also very surprised when she found out that the world they were living in was going to end because of the Tempest incident that was happening soon. The following day, Aya returned to school as usual. But this time, she seemed more cheerful because there was no one to bully her anymore since she had become close friends with Yatsumura. When Aya entered her classroom, her cheerful face turned gloomy, and for being unable to find Yatsumura's whereabouts anywhere. Meanwhile, Yatsumura is still at home and looks helpless because lately, she has used her magical power too often, draining her energy quite drastically. Not long after, Aya was surprised by the presence of Nijimi in her class, who decided to take a hiatus from her profession as a singer and enrolled in Aya and Yatsumura's school, even becoming their classmate. Nijimi then tells Aya that she has decided to take a temporary hiatus from the music industry to focus more on finding the person who killed her best friend, Mikado. Upon hearing that, Aya feels anxious and confused because if Nijimi finds out that it was Rina who killed Mikado, then it is certain that she will kill Rina. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to them, Sarina turns out to be secretly eavesdropping on their conversation and seems to be planning something. After school, Aya decides to go to Yatsumura's house because she worries about her. Arriving there, Aya found Yatsumura lying helplessly on the floor. But what surprised her even more was the presence of a man being held captive in the house. Yatsumura told Aya that she used to live with her parents who loved her very much, so she lived a happy life. Sadly, her happiness was instantly shattered when a robber named Soji broke into her house and killed her parents. At the time, she was hiding somewhere, but Soji found her and told her not to tell the police. He threatens to come back and find her when she grows up. Afterward, Yatsumura spends the next few years fearing him coming back until she is chosen by the Magical Girl site and decides to strike first. After successfully capturing Soji, she imprisoned him in her house and tortured him relentlessly to avenge the death of her parents, who had been killed by him. Not long after, Sarina suddenly appeared at Yatsumura's house, prepared to take revenge for Erika's death and the scar on her neck, which worsened her physical appearance. In addition, Sarina also told Aya and Yatsumura that she had revealed Rina Shioya's identity as the magical hunter to Nijimi, so Nijimi rushed to the hospital to kill Rina. However, Yatsumura apparently had anticipated this and created the magical barrier to protect Rina. Sarina, who has now become the magical hunter, uses her magic wand and starts launching attacks at Aya and Yatsumura. A fierce battle ensued between them, and because of the large amount of magical energy used, the feud between the magical girls caused the apartment building to crumble. However, before the building completely collapsed, Aya used her toy gun to safely teleport Sarina to their class. At the same time, Yatsumura created a magical barrier to protect her and Aya from the rubble of the collapsed building above them. After that, they were rushed to the hospital for intensive care because they suffered severe injuries. Meanwhile, Nijimi, who was very annoyed because she couldn't destroy the magical barrier that protected Rina, then remembered the words of Aya and Yatsumura, who had asked for her help to save their friend who was in a coma. Realizing that the friend they were referring to was none other than Rina, she immediately became furious and decided to kill them. Nijimi finally arrives at Aya's house, where she meets Kaname and falls in love with him at first sight because of his handsome looks. At the same time, someone is seen watching her from a distance and seems to have bad intentions toward her. Enchanted by Kaname's good looks, Nijimi finally gave up on killing Aya and instead tried to attract his attention so that he fell in love with her. On the other hand, Kaname, who thinks everyone else is trash, decides to use her to discover more about the magical girl site. At the hospital, a mysterious girl sneaks into Rina's treatment room. Surprisingly, the girl managed to destroy the magical barrier and took out a cutter at Rina's side. Turned out that the girl apparently had no intention of killing Rina, instead trying to cure her by giving her blood to Rina. Shortly after the girl gave Rina a few drops of her blood, she finally woke up from the coma. The mysterious girl then introduces herself to Rina as Kasame Amagai. She reveals that she is the magical girl who has a box cutter as her magical wand, with its power being the ability to physically heal others by feeding her own blood to them by cutting herself with the box cutter. However, this only heals their bodies and cannot return the lost lifespan of other magical girls. Despite not showing many facial expressions, Kasame is calm, soft-spoken, and friendly. However, she becomes very nervous and loses her sanity if she does not take her pills. She is nicknamed Mental Girl by Rina because of her sudden outbursts, where she seems to have random panic attacks. With these symptoms, she needs to take medication to lessen them. After healing Rina, Kasame headed to both Aya and Yatsumura's treatment room to heal them. Afterward, Kasame reveals that she's a magical girl from another side of the several that exist and that she needs their help. She explains that she needs help from other magical girls to fight the administrators of the magical girl sites. Furthermore, she told Aya and her companions that the magical girl sites were numerous and had different administrators and magical powers. She explained about the Tempest event that would destroy human civilization on Earth. The only way to survive the events of the Tempest is to collect the magical artifacts full of negative energy and hand them over to the king, an omnipotent figure from the past responsible for causing the Tempest. Aya and her companions seemed so surprised that from the start, the magical girls were deliberately used to collect negative energy from the magical wands given by the administrator of the website, which would actually shorten their life. After realizing they've been lied to, they agree to help Kasame capture an administrator to find out the truth about the Tempest and the magical girl site, and figure out how they can survive the destruction of mankind. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the administrators of the magical girl sites are having a meeting, where they discuss the magical girls who already know about the Tempest and decide to kill the magical girls who know too much about the Tempest and the magical girl site. Soon afterward, Yatsumura thanks Aya for giving her another reason to live, and Aya's parents agree to allow her to stay. After that, they try to find their magical wands lost after their fierce fight against Sarina. However, they could not find their magical wands, even though they had searched until night when they finally decided to go home. Yatsumura, who now lives at Aya's house, said she wanted to go to the beach with Aya before the world ended because of the Tempest. Elsewhere, Sarina was seen meeting Nana, and she asked Sarina to hand over the magic wands she had collected during her duties as the magical hunter. However, Sarina refuses to give Nana the magical wands before she manages to kill Aya and Yatsumura. It's also revealed that Sarina was the one who had taken the magical wands belonging to them when the apartment building collapsed. Even though Nana lets Sarina keep the magical wands, Nana insists that she will not hesitate to kill Sarina if she disobeys her orders or plans something against her. The next morning, Yatsumura told Aya they would meet Kasame in the afternoon. But before that, they must convince Nijimi to help them carry out the plan to kidnap the administrator of the magical girl site. Shortly afterward, they invite Nijimi to talk on the school roof and explain everything that happened to her. Yatsumura asks Nijimi to put aside her revenge against Rina because they must work together to kidnap the administrator and find a way to survive the events of the Tempest. Nijimi tells them that she only agrees to help them with the kidnapping if she can kill Rina first. Not long after, Aya and Yatsumura were surprised by the appearance of a new student in their class, who turned out to be Rina. Seeing Rina standing in front of Nijimi, she became angry and prepared to kill Rina. However, Aya and Yatsumura try to prevent her from killing Rina. While Yatsumura knocks Nijimi down and pins her down to keep her from moving, Aya takes her magical pants off, and Yatsumura runs away and hides them. After school, Aya takes Nijimi to the park, where they meet Yatsumura and Rina. Seeing Rina's presence there, Nijimi felt angry and wanted to kill her using her magical wand. Thankfully, Nijimi immediately realized her actions were in vain because Yatsumura had hidden her magical wand. Shortly after, the four met Kasame and her companions from the other magical girl site. Kasame introduced her companions one by one, starting with Asahi Takiguchi, a seemingly popular and athletic girl that goes to a different school than her group, but received her wand from the same site. Her magical wand is a necklace that enables superhuman speed and strength. Then there is Sayuki Ringa, the only daughter of a yakuza, possessing great sword fighting and martial arts skills. Her magical wand is a katana that can slice and harden anything from afar. After that, there is Kiyoharu Suirenji, a transgender girl who attends the same school as Kasame. Kiyoharu is recognized as female by the magical girl site, thus, she is chosen as a magical girl. Her magical wand forms a ring with the power to link directly within her target's sensory system to control their body and experience their senses remotely. And the last one is Mikari Izumigamine, an heiress from a seemingly rich family, and her magic wand is a broomstick that enables flight. After they all gathered, Kasame again explained her plan to kidnap one of the administrators of the magical girl site and dig all the information about the Tempest and how to survive the catastrophe. But before that, Aya and Yatsumura must find their magical wands first. Kasame said that she and her companions would help them find their magical wands because, apparently, Kiyoharu can use her magical wand to detect the presence of the other magical wands. That evening, Rina decides to stay temporarily at Aya's house, where they share a room. When everyone was asleep, Aya got a call from Kasame, who said she wanted to discuss something important with her. Soon after that, they choose to meet somewhere where Kasame reveals that Yatsumura doesn't have much time left because she uses her magic wand too often. Upon hearing that, Aya became very shocked and cried in frustration. Knowing that Yatsumura might not have enough time, Aya asks Kasame to help gather the magical girls and takes them on an excursion to the beach, just as Yatsumura wanted. At the same time, a man named Naoto was seen watching Nijimi, who was about to leave Aya's house after saying goodbye to Kaname. He turns out to be a big fan of Nijimi, who keeps stalking her and feels very irritated at Kaname, who looks familiar with his idol. Therefore, he also intends to kill Kaname. Long story short, Aya and the magical girls then decided to spend a full day having fun on the beach to simply relieve stress and carve out beautiful memories together before carrying out the actions that might cost them their lives. When she was about to go home, Nijimi was very surprised and confused because her magical wand had disappeared from her locker. Kiyoharu then uses her magical power to read their minds, but none of the magical girls steal Nijimi's panties, indicating that someone else knows about the magical girl sight and their magical wands. Nijimi immediately realized that she had revealed the magical girl sight to Kaname and assumed that he had stolen her magical wand. Meanwhile, Naoto finally meets Kaname and intends to kill him. Fortunately, he used Nijimi's magical wand to force Naoto to kill himself. From a distance, Aya watched the whole scene and was very surprised to find out that her older brother was the one who had stolen Nijimi's magical wand, and Kaname used his power to kill someone. Aya, still in shock at the incident, was surprised by the appearance of Yatsumura and Rina, who invited her to go home immediately. On the way home, Aya kept thinking about Kaname and had no idea that he knew about the magical girl sight and their magical wands. Aya actually wanted to tell her fellow magical girls about it. However, she immediately abandoned her intention because she didn't want them to kill her brother. On the other hand, Kiyoharu, who can read other people's minds, finds out about Aya's secret about her brother, who stole Nijimi's magical wand. Not only that, but she also knew about Nijimi, who had revealed information about the magical girl sight to Kaname. Therefore, she was determined to resolve the problem immediately before it worsened. After that, Nijimi returned to her apartment, while Aya and the others decided to stay at Sayuki's house. Elsewhere, the police find the body of Naoto, who died by doing the unthinkable. But one of the police detectives named Kichiro Misumi found an oddity while conducting an investigation at the location where Naoto's body was found. There was a photo with the name of a person who was none other than Kaname Asagiri. Kichiro decides to investigate Kaname and tries to find his involvement in Naoto's death. At the same time, Nijimi, who was at her house, was surprised by Kaname's appearance, which revealed his true identity, where he used his magic wand to control Nijimi and ordered her to kill herself. But then, Asahi suddenly appears there and tries to save Nijimi. Asahi is under the influence of Kiyoharu, who deliberately controls his body to save Nijimi. However, Kaname's control over Nijimi is much stronger, so even she can order Nijimi to attack Asahi by strangling her. In fact, Kaname took over Kiyoharu's control over Asahi's body and ordered her to kill Kiyoharu. Under the influence of Kaname, Asahi then stabs Kiyoharu until she is seriously injured. At the same time, Asahi finally managed to break free from the influence of the person controlling her mind and rushed Kiyoharu to Kasame's place to save her life. Seeing Kiyoharu lying helpless, Kasame used her magic wand to heal Kiyoharu. But her blood isn't enough, so Aya takes her magic wand and uses it to save her. Afterward, Aya also revealed to her fellow magical girls that the person who had stolen Nijimi's magical wand and controlled Asahi to kill Kiyoharu was her older brother, Kaname. Not long after, Kaname finally arrived at Sayuki's residence and managed to defeat the guards there. Kaname, who uses Nijimi's magical wand, can easily paralyze Aya and her fellow magical girls. Kaname even discovered that Aya had just used Kasame's magical wand, so he drank Aya's blood, which was still pouring from her hands, to heal his wounds. After that, Kaname ordered Nijimi to seize their magical wands. But when Nijimi is about to take Kiyoharu's magical wand, she then uses its magical power and manages to overcome Kaname's magic and free her mind. Nijimi realizes it's all her fault for falling for Kaname's deception and attacks him. Unexpectedly, Kaname managed to dodge her attack and slashed her with Sayuki's sword. Nijimi, lying on the ground, tries to get up, severely injuring Kaname in the neck with a broken crystal bottle. Despite being badly injured, Kaname doesn't give up and still tries to kill Nijimi until finally, a mysterious invisible person stops him and makes everyone there lose consciousness after inhaling sleeping gas. The following days, news of Nijimi's death spread quickly throughout the country. Aya's classmates again mourn the death of their classmate. On the other hand, Aya, who blames herself for Nijimi's death, continues to lock herself in her room and sinks deeper into sadness and frustration. But then, Aya again determined to become stronger so that no one else was hurt or killed because she didn't want to lose the friends who were very precious in her life. She then rushed to the ruins of Yatsumura's house and tried to find her magical wand. Meanwhile, Yatsumura and her fellow magical girls were seen attending Nijimi's funeral ceremony, held in a building where fans come from all over the country to bid farewell to their idols. Unfortunately, Yatsumura couldn't find Aya there. As the funeral service was almost over, Aya suddenly appeared and walked over to Nijimi's coffin to bid farewell one last time. She promised in front of Nijimi, who was lying dead, that from now on, she would not let anyone get hurt or lose their life. After that, Aya pointed her toy gun at her fellow magical girls to move them to a safe place, just before a huge explosion occurred in that place. When they are finally in a safe place, Aya reveals to Yatsumura and the others that the website administrator, Nana, had been watching them from a distance and had devised a plan to kill them in the explosion. In addition, Aya revealed that she learned about Nana's plan from Sarina, who decided to fight Nana after learning the truth behind the Tempest and the cunning plans the administrators carried out. But then, Aya redirected her magical wand to Yatsumura and the others and asked them to hand over their magical wand because she didn't want anyone to get hurt anymore and planned to bear the consequences and face everything herself. Yatsumura, who heard Aya's words, slapped her face while insisting that Nijime's death was not her fault, so she didn't have to endure it alone. Yatsumura finally managed to convince Aya, so she gave up and decided to fight with her fellow magical girls. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Kichiro, who was conducting an investigation at the scene, met with Nana, who was also there to confirm that she had succeeded in killing Aya and the magical girls. Surprisingly, Kichiro discovered the magical girl and even conspired with her to kill them. It's revealed that the mysterious invisible person who brought Kaname in the middle of his battle with the magical girls was none other than Kichiro. While Nana thought that Aya and her fellow magical girls had died in the explosion, they had survived and are now planning to carry out a plan to kidnap one of the administrators of the magical girl site. Kasame immediately traced all the information about Yuka and finally found her home and school address. After getting the address, Kiyoharu, Asahi, and Sayuki rushed to her house, while Yatsumura, Aya, and Rina oversaw her school. Meanwhile, Mikari and Kasame will be watching the situation from above. Not long after, the administrator finally appeared at Yuka's school carrying the promised magical wand. Rina, who saw his arrival, immediately launched an attack, and the two of them were then involved in a fierce battle. However, the administrator outperformed her and succeeded in overthrowing her. Seeing Rina overwhelmed by the administrator alone, Yatsumura intended to help her. However, Aya immediately prevented Yatsumura from using her magical wand because she remembered Kasame's words about Yatsumura's lifespan, which would end soon if she used her magical wand. On the other hand, the administrator, who knew of Aya and Yatsumura's whereabouts, prepared to launch an attack on them. Upon seeing that, Rina got up and used her magical wand to overthrow the administrator. At the same time, Aya immediately used her magic wand to move the administrator to the roof of the school, where Sarina was already there to overthrow the administrator and forced him to provide information about the Tempest. Sadly, their efforts were in vain as the administrator had somehow died. Shortly after, a puff of purple smoke shot out of the administrator's body. Mikari and Kasame, who saw the smoke, then rushed towards it. Meanwhile, Kiyoharu and the others were surprised by the appearance of the administrators who launched an attack on them. After that, they fought fiercely with the administrators. Turning back to Aya's group on the school rooftop, they looked shocked to find out that the administrator was an ordinary girl like them. But then, Nana, who finally found out that they were still alive, arrived there and shot Sarina straight away. Since Kiyoharu and the others were so overwhelmed by the administrator's attacks, Mikari decided to leave and help her comrades, while Kasame remained there. Shortly afterward, Yatsumura prepares to use her magical wand to stop time so they can defeat Nana, but she instantly destroys Yatsumura's magical wand. Even so, Yatsumura could still create the magical barrier to protect Aya and the others while she tried to withstand Nana's attacks. At the end of her life, Yatsumura thanked Aya and felt very grateful to have met her because Aya had helped her find the happiness she had been missing for so long. Yatsumura said that she had prepared for her death and no longer held any regrets. In the end, Yatsumura died. But then, Yatsumura's soul somehow moved to the place of the administrators of the magical girl site, where they then announced her as the new candidate for the administrator. They revealed to Yatsumura that the king is the most miserable girl in the world, a sorceress that will change the world by causing the Tempest, a global storm that will erase evil from the world but kill those unable to adapt, that is, most of humankind. At the same time, Aya uses her magic wand to move Sarina, Kasame, and Rina to another place while she will still be there to fight Nana. Not long after, Aya was surprised that Yatsumura had been resurrected because she became the new candidate for the administrator. Being under the influence of the administrators, Yatsumura, who got her magic wand back, used her magical power to attack Aya. Meanwhile, the battle between Sayuki and the administrators was still fierce. Realizing that she was starting to get overwhelmed with them, Sayuki decided to withdraw from the fight after successfully killing one of the administrators. Elsewhere, Aya decides to teleport with her, knowing Yatsumura is being controlled. She manages to transport herself and Yatsumura to the beach, where risking her own life can make Yatsumura remember their friendship. Afterward, they work together to defeat Nana. Before dying, Nana asks if they both think of themselves as poor girls. Upon hearing that, Aya was reminded of her past full of suffering because she was always bullied. However, after meeting Yatsumura and her fellow magical girls, Aya realizes that misfortune and suffering can be changed if they dare to act to defend themselves and defend their loved ones. Hence, they decide that they are not poor girls. In the end, Aya and her fellow magical girls managed to survive and decided to start a new life to get the happiness they had always wanted. Elsewhere, it's revealed that Kaname was actually being held captive by Kichiro. The anime ends with Aya and Yatsumura promising that nobody will take their happiness away, while the angry king wishes them more misfortune. The moral that can be learned from this anime is never to bully or intimidate anyone.